So I just love coming to these events because they are places where you bump into some very exciting people. And one of those exciting people that I bumped into is Arun. Arun works at a company. He's an account director of a company called Amobi. But he says he doesn't want to talk about Amobi. In fact, we both want to talk about something which is quite exciting instead, which is about big data and how it applies to mobiles and mobile advertising. So do you want to just hold sway?
Yeah, absolutely, Rajiv. Thanks for the introduction. The reason I said we don't want to speak about Amobi is Amobi is part of the ecosystem. So in forums like these, we don't need to make commercial plugins. We should talk about concepts and what the future probably is.
And the evangelical need for pushing the agenda.
So,
very nice.
We'll buy some spots if you have to speak about Amobi.
Very cool.
So cool. So let's start with the context, right? There's a very funny report that I read in the US which said if you lose your phone, you would report it to the police in 6 hours. If you lose your wife, you probably wait for 24 hours before reporting.
You're not hearing it, darling.
Well, Rajiv is different. Let's put it that way.
You're not?
Okay, I'm also different. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
But the point being, mobile is an extremely personal medium, and that's what its position has come to be as in us and as individuals' life. But we've mistaken this as a marketing tool many a times. Just because it's personal and I would report it in 6 hours, doesn't necessarily mean it easily lends itself for marketing or commercial exploitation. So it's not something like television where you put an ad and somebody else would respond to it. It's not about interrupting. It's about enhancing the user experience. Because you know so much, the user also expects you will treat that with respect and you will enhance the experience. That's the problem we love to paraphrase and say, so now that mobile is so personal and everybody abuses and uses it, in some form or the other, how can you make the experience richer for users, right? So that's point number one, well established. Let's look at advertising as a topic. Advertising traditionally, as we know, has grown from the 60s, which was on television. Television used to take a break to show an ad, which means there's some level of interruption. Advertising typically is interruption,
yes,
but at times it's better content or it enhances the user experience. On mobile, the ability is to maybe interrupt that, but also make it far more better and far more relevant. On your phone, Rajiv, and my phone, we both could receive an ad, but at the end of the day, what you receive versus what I receive could be dramatically different. Sitting here, you may get a message saying, hey, it's your, do you want to go for a candlelight dinner out tomorrow? That's because they probably know it's your anniversary. I could get a message saying, hey, do you want to see a sightseeing trip to Agra? Because I'm visiting Delhi right now and I'm on my way out somewhere. That is interruption, but that's very relevant. How do you enable that utopian kind of a world where advertising does exist, but it's very relevant to you? We believe, and our bet is that happens through big data. How does data come to the forefront of advertising, blends in with advertising, and makes the user experience much better? The people we believe who control that ecosystem right now are largely operators. Why we bet on operators? Operators, though abused as dumb pipe holders and they're just sending traffic, the reality is exploiters, right? Look, they're always looked at as negatively. But if I were to continue and say, is Facebook an exploiter?
Perhaps not.
Perhaps not. Is Google an exploiter?
Perhaps not again.
Why do you say that?
Because they don't charge me money, presumably.
Exactly.
They don't take money from me.
But what you're trading with Facebook and Google is something bigger. There is no free lunch in the world.
I'm giving my data away to
You're giving your privacy around, not data. You're giving your privacy around.
Fair
On
enough.
Facebook, all that you say and do about you, you have to say more. Only then do you get more people connected. So you're in a world in which you keep sharing and sharing data.
That's interesting.
What Facebook does with that, and I'm sure Facebook, has a vested interest. It's a listed company, so it has some vested interest with your data, right?
Absolutely.
If you want to know what that vested interest is, a small synopsis is you go to Facebook, you go to the bottom and see advertise with us, and you click on that button and you see the dashboard that Facebook is offering today for advertising. So it can go to a finite level of targeting. So you can select, I want to target men. I want to target men who are between the age 30 to 35, who live in Gurgaon, who like Ranbir Kapoor, who have a BlackBerry phone. Now, which other medium offers you that level of finite targeting? Great, Facebook is a great medium, but the question also comes is, where did Facebook get all that data from? You've shared it, right? So while operators do, have their own business, it's very apparent. But Facebook, what it does to you is not very apparent.
No free lunches. Great point. Love it. Keep going.
So the fact of the matter is, all the new age companies at some level play with data. But we have come to believe that because we get incentivized in return, we are happy to share data. What Google knows is what's happening in your mind. I want to go from Delhi to Agra. Google knows you're about to travel. Now imagine it will use that data in some form, whether it is selling to travel operators, so on and so forth. So Google is all about intent. Facebook is all about your connections, relationships, and all about you as a personal audience. LinkedIn is your job profile. So it's basically your online CV, but you are selling yourself differently. You see that same world applied to the world of operators and what they can do, help you on mobile. They may not look that scary. If operators then start harnessing the power of data and bringing you better content or incentivized content or making it relevant to you, you'd say, okay, fine enough. I'm not trading my individual detail, but I'm trading something of more value, which I'm sure will come back to me in some form. So that's the playground that we're operating in, and that's what keeps us awake in the night, and that's what keeps us happy. So that's. Anything else you'd want to know apart from where you should take your wife, or there is no free lunch? Or
no, I think that's a very good perspective on how these three platforms are different and how data plays a role.
Yeah.
But talk about big data itself. See, big data connotes that fire hose of information that's coming to us, right? And there's a lot of things that are different about this kind of data, right? We have a finite processing capability as human beings. Right? At this first order, if I've got 100,000 Twitter feed and I'm looking at that Twitter feed, I just can't absorb the information that's coming at the first level there. So how does big data get into those kinds of questions?
So it's a good question. So let's break up the definition of data. So what are the kinds of data you can get? And let's categorize into three buckets. There's explicit data, implicit data, and one more collaborative data. Explicit data in our worldview is when you have explicitly shared information about yourself. When you're taking a SIM or you're taking a new connection, you enter a bunch of questions that you have. So you've shared your name, address, where you live, what is the kind of service you want, what's your postal address, a little bit more about yourself. So you explicitly state. The implicit data is where it gets very interesting, because I am trying to figure out information about you, which means I'm trying to see what sites you go to, what's the kind of content you're having, what's the kind of call log data that you have. So do you call up a high-end Italian restaurant versus you call up Domino's or Pizza Hut? So I know,
a daba.
Or a daba, right? So if I can marry this data and I can keep the call log information, and then I start collaborating with third parties. There are third parties in the ecosystem, such as let's say Nielsen or other parts. In India, it's not so developed about third party, but in Singapore, typically Australia, you find a lot of third party companies such as Experian, Nielsen, so on and so forth, who have a lot more data about a certain postal code, about an area, about a consumer. When you start adding all these pieces of data, you find that there are innumerable data points. There are 50, 100, 2,000 data points that can emerge about one consumer, sites that he visits, what time does he, where does he travel, so on and so forth. Now, if these 2,000 fields of data can be brought to light just before you're serving an ad message, and you have a choice to say, should I serve him a Citibank Platinum card, a new Audi campaign, or a Wheel detergent campaign? We can make a judgmental call of which ad message is best relevant to him. To do that processing, you don't need human beings. You need, ability to mine and refine this data.
Computational engines. Yes.
Computational engines. One of the interesting discussions we were having the other day is with a data scientist from Harvard, and what he said was very exciting. He said, "Look, more the data, better the data. You don't need algorithms. What you need is just more pieces of data, because you have computational power today. You have storage capacity. Just start storing and computing it. The dots will automatically connect. It's not about having the best algorithm which predicts and other things." So more the number of fields, whatever way you derive, is always going to be exciting enough to bring it forth to advertising or for any other particular campaign. Traditionally, this has been done by banks and telcos very well, where they've used their own CRM capabilities in some form or the other to unearth people, saying if a consumer meets these 10 records or these 10 trigger points,
Then push this
we
at them.
should push this marketing campaign to them. But that's a very offline kind of a thing. Assume all that happens in real time. It's CRM on steroids literally for advertising. And then advertising is interruption, but it is very relevant to you. And you'll love to see the next ad that comes up to you. Maybe there's some incentivization for you.
Very cool. So we were talking about offline usages of big data by the financial services
Yes,
companies,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Now talk about how online usage of big data is happening by telcos or other guys.
So the way we're seeing that is, right now we are in the plumbing stage. We need to make sure this data is in a certain format and it's available for leverage on advertising or in real time. So the first thing is the way data exists today in most companies or any companies, in silos, isolation, different departments own it, it's in different field, different formats, different functionalities. Just getting all this together itself is a huge project, which could typically take anywhere from 1 year. Then you have regulatory issues, and you have statutory issues, and you have technical issues. The government has a point of view on what you can do with consumer data, whether it can leave the country, how many times can you reach to them, what is the way that you need to engage with them, what are the safeguards that you need to do for them. Consumers should have an opt-out mechanism so that tomorrow if you say, boss, I find this very scary, I need to opt out. It's like switching off your Facebook account. I need to opt out. I don't need all of this. You should be able to do all that. Technical requirements saying where the data center should be located, what is the kind of infrastructure I need, what is the kind of seamless integration that should happen. So, operators need to figure this out. Once you've done that, then we see how do we then make a case where in the blink of an eye, just before as content is being served, how do I serve the right ad for you? So there are data architectures that you need to build up and say, okay, so there's a mirror of a data available, there's an ad request come, looks like these are the 5 profiles that we have, this is a campaign that we have from an advertiser, match it, serve them the relevant ad. So it sounds complicated, but when it all stitches together seamlessly, it's magic. So to see what that magic really is, you should see the movie Minority Report again. And there's a scene where Tom Cruise walks across outdoor hoarding. And as he walks out that hoarding, ads start calling to him and talking to him.
In the mall.
In the mall.
Yes.
It looks scary. We may not live in that kind of a world, but imagine that one ad was customized for you. Oh, it's brilliant.
Mind-blowing, isn't it?
Mind-blowing, right?
That's the manna for this world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Talk about yourself. What motivates you? What drives you? Where are you from and what do you do?
I am from Bombay. I used to live in Bombay. Home is now Singapore. Happily married. I think I am first a father, then a husband, and then I work with a movie in exactly in that order.
I love the way you put it. Okay.
So life is pretty interesting at this stage. Love working with a movie. We're now part of Singtel as a company. We're doing exciting stuff across APAC. Keeps me busy, up in the night, but not complaining at all.
Fabulous. Great stuff. I'm sure we'll continue to hear more from you.
Thank you, Rajat.
Congratulations and best of luck.
Thank you, Rajat.
Yes.
Pleasure talking.